Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to Round 5 coverage of my games from the 2019 Western States Open. Round 5 was played Sunday morning, and I was feeling pretty good. It was played Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m., so it's the earliest of the rounds in the tournament. But I was feeling pretty good after that win on Saturday night. I had worked my way back to even, and an even result would be a good result for me in this tournament since I'm playing in the A section and my rating currently is at the bottom of the A section, so a decent result. My opponent here was rated 1920, and my rating was 1801 for the tournament. So he started off with d4. I went knight f6. He went c4. I went e6, hoping to get the Nimzo-Indian, and my opponent obliges with knight c3. Not knight f3, avoiding the Nimzo, but allowing me to play it. And I go bishop b4. And now he goes for one of the sharpest lines in the Nimzo for the white side, which is a3 here, leading into the Saemisch variation. After the game, we went over it, and I said, you're playing the Saemisch here. And he said, it's not the Saemisch yet, so maybe it's not actually the Saemisch until a couple moves later. Anyway, I take, he takes. I play c5, which is the main way I play against this, and that's the main move here. The idea is that if white takes it, he's got these horrible tripled pawns here. You can bring your queen out to a5 at any time to round them up, so you don't have to be worried about white taking that pawn, and you get to put pressure on the center. So c5, a good move. And then he played f3, so I'm sure after f3 this is the Saemisch variation. Actually, in this position, e3 is a little more common than f3, and I would have still called that a Saemisch, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. Anyway, this definitely is a Saemisch. And here I played d6. So d6 is a bit of a rare move here, but well, I'm just going for my normal setup with the Nimzo-Indian. I want to get my knight here and push this pawn forward, block up the center, and then kind of maneuver the knights around. Should lead to an interesting game. Usually does. But the main move here, and maybe the better move, I think it leads to a better position for black, is to just go ahead and play d5, kind of taking advantage of white's setup and getting in d5 before he has a chance to play e4, because he played f3 to support the c4 push. With the Saemisch, white is trying to build up a big center, and so d5 cuts against that. And the main line goes like this. So d5 is the main move, and the main line goes c takes, then knight takes, not taking back with a pawn, but taking with a knight, d takes, and queen a5. You've lost the dark squared bishop, so you have no bishop that can come out here and take that pawn, but the queen can come out and round up those pawns. And then white usually plays e4, and it's not really good to take that pawn at the moment. So black just retreats his knight to either f6 or e7, and seems to be a fine position. These pawns are going to be, one of them at least is going to be rounded up, and white will be left with a backwards pawn or an isolated pawn. And his development isn't looking so great either, although he will have easy development. He's got nice diagonals for his bishops, and he has the bishop pair. So there's something for both sides here, but certainly playable for black. And another idea here is I could just play knight c6 immediately, although we get into a similar kind of position. Anyway, this line goes knight c6, e4, and then d6. So this is the kind of position I get into. It's another way to do it. I'm always a little worried about playing this knight c6 immediately, because maybe he can push on with d5. In this case, the chess engine says after d5, just go knight a5, threaten to take this pawn, and you should be okay. That buys you a tempo to get the pawn to d6 and maybe this one to e5 later. So anyway, interesting play there. I went with d6, so this is still okay. It's not like anything has gone wrong here. I'm just saying that I think that d5 move is better here. Let's see. He went e4. I went knight c6. So we get to that position I was showing that I could have gotten to with knight c6 first. He went bishop e3 here. I went b6. And we're actually all still in the opening book, although after I played d6, it's kind of a rare line in the opening book, but this has all been played before and seems to be okay for both sides. And here I play e5. Maybe castles was a little better. The chess engine, at least at first blush, didn't like this e5 move. But it seems to be okay after a few moves, or at least white didn't immediately exploit it. You know, white did not push d5 here. And anyway, I castled at this point. And once again, probably the best move for white is to play d5. This is how it might go. Actually, after castling, we're out of the book, but it doesn't matter too much. I mean, we were in such a rare such a rare line in the database that you know, you're going to leave the book at any moment. But for what it's worth, h6 was played here before. h6 actually is a move I would avoid in this position because he may be threatening to do some kind of pawn storm, and it gives him something to bite on. But the chess engine thinks h6 is okay. It doesn't think there's anything wrong with castling either. Anyway, and at this point, it thinks white should play d5. And then, you know, there is a point here that white, if I go knight e7, which is the usual way I like to play this, bring the knight out on the king side, maybe try and get a perch here. White can play h4, and now if I play g3, he can kick that knight away before I have a chance to secure that perch on f4 there. So this actually looks pretty good for white. After d5, the chess engine likes knight a5, which is another idea against the Saemisch. Putting pressure on this pawn, maybe this bishop can come out to a6 later, and you can even round up that pawn. Although this is a risky way to play, because you do have to worry about the king side attack here, and your pieces are over here on the queen side, not helping. That's why I like to bring my knight back this way when I can. Let's see. After this, just the line goes knight g3 and knight to d7. And yeah, I don't quite know what to make of this. I guess the bishop is going out to a6. I mean, it seems like the knight is just blocking the bishop there. But maybe another idea is to leave the bishop here and push the f-pawn forward, and then bring the knight back. And you've got the rook, or move the knight out of the way somewhere. You know, he's got that square pretty well covered. So maybe I'd have to work up to that. Maybe g6 and f5. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the plan is there. But that's what the chess engine wants to play, knight to a5 and maybe bishop a6 later. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have played that. Anyway, my opponent did not push on with d5, though. He played g4 immediately. And that's a pretty interesting move. Not actually good, so it's a bit questionable. And so there's different ways you could refute it. Maybe this is a good point to pause the video here and see. You're black. Your opponent has just played this g4 move, this kind of hyper-aggressive move. How would you respond in this position? And there's more than one good answer here. It's not like there's a single answer. Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm giving the answer away now. It's let's talk about different alternatives. I think actually knight a5 was the chess engine's preferred move. Just not worrying about it at all. And well, you saw actually the chess engine wanted to bring the knight back to d7 anyway, so I guess it's just not worried about this pawn coming forward. And then after knight g3, bishop a6, thinks actually this is a good time to just go after this pawn. And so yeah, it's just not afraid of this attack at all. The knight could also retreat to e8 as well as to d7, so that's not. So there are squares for it to go to. So that would be fine, and leads to an advantage to black, actually. So it seems like this weakening move on the king side is not going to pay off. I thought a bit about the move h6, and this may be playable, but I didn't like it. I kind of rejected it because of the g5 threat coming here, opening up lines against my king, and it's simultaneously hitting the pawn and the knight. So I rejected that one. Another way to continue here is to just take in the center, start trading off some stuff here. This is well, let's back up. I think taking with the c pawn first. Maybe it doesn't matter too much, but this the line I had gotten. He takes, so he's got to take back with a piece now. You can keep taking. And now at this point, and then drop the knight back to d7. So at this point, you know, he's got a pawn storm here against your king, but he's down to just 2 minor pieces, right? 1 minor piece was traded off in the opening, establishing the Saemisch with that a3 move, and we just traded another piece. So he's down to 2 minor pieces. He has the bishop pair, but you know, his attack is apparently just not that threatening. And the knight from d7 has a couple of good squares it could go to, and maybe this pawn could come up to stop the onrush of these pawns. So there's some ideas for black. So those are all fine. I played something completely different, and I think it's a very interesting move. I don't know if any of you spotted this idea, but I played the move bishop takes g4. So yeah, I didn't think of these ideas of just ignoring the attack. I was kind of taking the attack seriously, and well, also because I didn't like that h6 move, which is the only move I thought to slow down the pawn rush. I guess the idea of allowing my knight to be pushed away from my king, it was just kind of foreign to me, so I was avoiding that. But I played this move, and you might find this a bit surprising, but this is not a bad move. After thinking for a while, it settles into some kind of equality here, or maybe a slight edge to white with accurate play, but it's not always so easy to accurately defend against an attack like this. So what's the point of the sacrifice? He takes, I take. So immediately I get 2 pieces, or 2 pawns for the piece. And also I'm hitting this loose bishop here, so I get another tempo while his king is still in the center. So he played queen d2. That's the best choice there, or one of the best choices. And then I get my queen out with check. And notice that the queen is hitting the king there, and he can't block with the bishop because the knight is also coordinating with the queen on the f2 square. So he has to move the king, and he played king d1. Actually, he doesn't have to move the king. He could play knight g3, and the chess engine slightly favors this, thinks maybe white's a little better here. So just to show how this line might go, I think you still can continue with the attack here as black. Trade off this bishop. This is a recommended move. Take here. And then the queen drops back to d2. I guess it gets a little dangerous if he keeps taking here. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if he keeps taking. I can take back and force the queen back. So queen to d2 is apparently the most accurate move. And then rook to e1, and you know, start to pile up on this pawn. Maybe bring the knight in if I get a chance, and yeah, it seems to be a playable attack, although white is slightly better, so white can defend if every move is played correctly. Anyway, he played king d1. This also defends, so white is still okay in this position. I took at this point. Let's see, I took with the c pawn. He took back, and I kept on taking. Actually, the chess engine likes the move queen h3 right here to continue the attack the most accurate way. It's kind of nice. The queen and the knight are now coordinating on that bishop on e3, so that's got to be dealt with. Knight to g3 to block the queen is apparently the best response. Then I can take, and then I can take here. And well, once again, this is a position where I'm going to be bringing the rooks into the game, and his king is still in the middle, and the attack would continue. So it's not a breakthrough, but it's apparently about an even position. Let's see. But I kept taking. I played e takes d4, so maybe white once again has a slight edge here. In fact, if he had taken with the bishop, the chess engine starts to like white here. Yeah, maybe that's not an easy move to play. He took with the knight, but just to show this line, taking with the bishop, I would probably grab the bishop pair here by trading, and then bring my queen back here. And the queen and the knight are coordinating on this square, but also the queen is looking along this diagonal. This looks pretty dangerous here, although there are some tricks. Taking here is a bit dangerous if this bishop can move with tempo. But anyway, queen c3 is the move here, and then knight f2 check. and the king has to move, and I get the rook in the corner. But the funny thing is that the chess engine likes white here, so the king gets to safety, I guess, and he gets my knight. So my remaining pieces are just the queen and two rooks. So I have a queen and two rooks. He'll have a queen, a rook, and two minor pieces. So he's got two minor pieces against the rook, and then he'll have four pawns against six. So I'll have two pawns plus a rook against the two minor pieces. But if his king gets to safety and my attack is stalled, maybe he can use the rooks on the open, or maybe he can use the minor pieces. I have the rooks on the open board. Yeah, it looks like it's still a game to me, but the chess engine likes white in that position. So that would be best play. He played knight takes, and right here I have a really strong move. So if you can spot the move, what is the best move for black in this position? Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. The answer is queen to f6. Yeah, I mentioned that in the previous move, but it's even better here. So you know, that knight is pinned. I do have a loose knight here, so you know, it's a little crazy to play this way. But well, you can't afford to give up the rook in the corner. Yeah, I just did not spot this idea during the game, but that's a very strong move here. And in fact, there's only one move for white that even is playable here. Because, for example, if he tries to defend with queen c3, I can just take the bishop. The queen is defending the bishop. So the only move for white in this position is e5, and maybe he wouldn't have spotted that. So this would have been a good way to maybe even just win the game outright. But with best play, it seems like it's still about even. So queen here. So the bishop now is under attack. The queen and the knight are coordinating on the bishop, and the bishop has to drop back. So bishop to g1 is the only move. And yeah, this looks just horrible for white. But I can't take here. This is one point. If I take, he takes, I take, then he's got bishop here, check, and my queen is hanging. So the knight is actually defended there. So I have to find another move. G6 maybe is a move here to blunt the bishop, or also maybe, oops, didn't mean to lose that. Also in this position, f5 not only blunts the bishop and threatens the knight, but also maybe gets a pawn going. It's a passed pawn. Why not push it? Anyway, after g6, bishop to e2 can be played, and apparently this is a game still, so maybe about even. But it's a position where white has to find that one precise move, and if he doesn't find it, then it's game over. So that's what you want, those kind of positions when you're doing this attack, because if you keep creating enough problems for your opponent, eventually they might stumble. But I didn't spot that queen f6 idea. I played knight c to e5, and that was actually yeah, I was sort of glad to see when he took with the knight, because I had spotted this idea. I can get this knight into the game, so I've got now the queen and the two knights over here on the king side. The problem with this idea is that his king can just continue to walk away. Now it's still not so simple. I can bring the rook in, and you know, I'm coordinating on this pawn, and maybe break through against his king over here. But my knights have moved to the other side of the board. The knights are over on the king side. Well, this knight is still in the middle, so but one of the knights is over on the king side. The queen is over on the king side, and his king has run over here and may be getting out of trouble. Anyway, after rook a to c8, he played king b3. I went ahead and took the bishop. I had spotted an idea here, a tactical idea. Take the bishop, he has to take back, and then I get this knight. So I get this knight into play. I eliminate one of his defenders, and it looks like I am picking up a pawn here and breaking through on the c-file. And once again, this is a position where there's only one move for white. But unfortunately for me, he found it. Yeah, every other move loses here, but the move that keeps the game going, and well, actually I said that wrong. Every other move is The best of the other moves is about even, so the game would continue. But there's a move here that continues the advantage for white. Yeah, we've switched to where white has the advantage now. And that's knight f5, kicking my queen. And now the chess engine says I should go for the queen trade. Knight takes queen, and maybe bring the other rook out. Actually, it likes rook c to e8. Cancel that. Just attacking this pawn. I guess I'm going to round up another pawn, but it thinks white is winning here. It's about +3, I guess. He's a piece up. I have 3 pawns for the piece after I gather this pawn up, but maybe it's not so easy to do anything at this point with the queens off. Anyway, so I decided to keep the queens on. I played queen h3. And I still thought I had some interesting ideas here. Maybe the knight coming back to this square. Oh no, it's going to this square. He still has to move his queen. I can still pick up a pawn over here, and maybe I can attack that pinned bishop somehow. He played queen e2. And I went knight takes c4, so I got the third pawn for the piece. Let's see. He went, but yeah, once again he found the best move here. He found the move rook a to g1. It's pretty logical. There's no immediate threat on his king. And so now he's got to generate some counterplay and get a counterattack going. And with this knight on f5, it was not only chasing my queen, but it was also setting up threats against my king. But I started by eliminating this bishop here. I had spotted a tactical idea here, and I still had some hopes. But there was a flaw in my plan. Let's see. He played rook takes g7 check, which is what I was expecting. I step aside. And then, well, once again, there's only one move here that really keeps that winning edge for white. And that move is rook to g3. These moves are not too hard to find, but in the game, mistakes can happen. And then I spotted one final tactical idea here, which is I took his knight. And the idea here is that if he takes my queen, then I go here with the check. The king has to move. Then nobody can take the knight, and wherever he goes, I'll take the queen. And now I'm a piece up. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have 2 extra pawns. So that would be a sudden turnaround and just winning. So I played knight takes f5, but he had spotted this idea, and he played queen b2 check. And so there's no longer a fork. And plus, there's no good answer to queen b2 check. I can't block with the knight because he can just take it and mate me. Let's see. Is there any move that I can play here to avoid the mate? Yeah, I can start giving things away. Maybe pawn to f3 or f6 there is playable. But if I play that, then I lose my queen. So at this point, I resign. So pretty interesting game. Here, instead of leaving this on the final position, let's go back to the position where I played that tactic, because I think actually it's nice to be able to spot tactics like this in your game, and you should definitely play them if you get the chance. Even though there was a safe move here that gave me the advantage, at least according to the chess engine, a move like well, c takes d4, just taking in the center. I think that's probably the safest way to play this. And removing the amount of force that white has. But this bishop takes pawn was definitely a playable piece sacrifice, and I think if you have a chance to play something like that in a real over-the-board game, you should do it just for the practice, if for nothing else. And it was certainly a very fun game. Had a good time going over with him in the post-mortem. But it did leave me at what is that? 2 draws, 1 win. Yeah, it leaves me at 2 points out of 5. So I'm below 50% going into the final round. The final round is going to be played at 4:30 on Sunday, so stay tuned, and I will be back with coverage of that game, and I will see you then. Bye.